Welcome to lesson 8 of looking at internet and web fundamentals. In this video, we are going to look at what's the difference between domain name and web hosting. This is the 8th video in my series where I'm teaching about internet and web fundamentals. Just to remind you in a nutshell, in the last videos, this series I talked about various topics such as World Wide Web and how it works, components of the web, the difference between web and the internet, client-server model of communication, and internet protocols. So if you have not looked at my previous videos in this series, kindly check on the video description below for the links to the so-called video. Our question for today's video is, what is domain name? To answer this question, a domain name is an easy to remember address name of your website that people type in the web browser's URL section in order to visit your website over the web or internet. It's the unique name that appears after the @ symbol in email address and after the www in web addresses. For example, the email address mulombi@mulan.co.ke and the web address www.mulan.co.ke both have the domain name as mulan.co.ke. Domain names are translated into special IP addresses by the help of the domain name system. For instance, the domain name google.com might translate to the IP address that's 64.233.191.255. Using domain name to identify a location on the internet rather than numeric IP address make it much easier to remember and type the web address. Then, how do you get a domain name for your website? Guys, anyone can buy a domain name. The most straightforward way to do so is to visit a domain name registrar such as A2, GoDaddy or Namecheap. Key in the domain name you want to buy and pay a fee. A domain name registrar is basically a business that handles the reservation of domain names as well as the assignment of IP addresses to those domain names. Since we are looking at both the domain name and web hosting, our second question is, what is web hosting? A web hosting service is a type of internet service that hosts website for client. That is, it offers the facilities required for them to create and maintain sites and makes it accessible on the World Wide Web. It is like the home of your website where it actually lives. Companies providing web hosting services are sometimes called web hosts. Examples of web hosting companies include Hostinka, DreamHost, A2 Hosting, HostGator, Bluehost, InMotion, and SiteGround. Then, we should also understand the types of web hosting. There are 4 types of web hosting, which are shared hosting, VPS or virtual private server hosting, dedicated hosting, and cloud hosting. By definition, shared hosting, as the name implies, websites using shared hosting will be sharing resources with other websites on a single server. This works well because the vast majority of websites don't need a whole server of their own. Shared hosting is the most basic type of web hosting. It's cost-effective and best choice for small or entry-level websites. As such, each website on the server will have a limited amount of resources as defined by their specific hosting plan. Good people, think of it as renting an apartment with roommates. You have your own bedroom, but you and your roommates will share resources like water, electricity, and common spaces throughout the house. The nature of sharing a server with other websites has its own drawbacks. For example, if another website on your server has a traffic spike, it can potentially cause performance issues with your site. These situations are out of your control. Virtual private server hosting or VPS hosting. With virtual private server, your website will still be sharing a single server with other websites. However, the number of websites you will be sharing with it is significantly lower. The main server is split into multiple virtual servers, hence the name. These virtual servers can be customized by individual websites. Guys, your site will perform better due to having more resources. This means you will benefit from faster loading times and higher uptimes. You won't have to worry about another website causing your site to crash. A virtual private server is like renting an apartment on your own. You won't be sharing kitchen, bathroom, living room, or other common spaces with any roommate. This gives you much more freedom and flexibility to do what you want with the space. However, you will be sharing some resources with the other units in the building, so there will be some limitation. Hosting type number 3 is dedicated hosting. Dedicated servers are typically considered the best choice in web hosting. That's because you have a dedicated server that belongs to you and you alone. You typically get more benefits with dedicated hosting, too, such as more uptime and faster speeds. However, it comes with catch. This is the most expensive type of web hosting. Since you won't be sharing resources or anything else with the other website, your site will operate at peak performance. A dedicated server is like owning a house. If you want to build a fence, plant a tree in the yard, or a patio, or renovate the kitchen, everything is completely up to you. Then the last type of hosting type is cloud hosting. Cloud hosting employs a virtual server to host website. In comparison, traditional web hosting services usually house one or more sites on one physical server. That's cloud hosting works through virtualization. It's a technology that splits a physical server into multiple virtual machines called cloud servers. Then this connects to create a single network for hosting a website. With the cloud servers, your website will have much high uptime rates and won't have as much unexpected downtime due to server errors. Your site will remain fluid and perform at a higher level. All this said, how do domain names and web hosting related? Domain names and web hosting are two different services, but they work together to make websites possible. But how? Basically, a domain name system is like a massive address book that is constantly updated. Behind each domain name, there is an address of the web hosting services storing the website's files. Without domain names, it will not be possible for people to find your website, and without web hosting, you cannot build a website. Thank you so much. I refer to you as good people. To let you know, in the next video, I'll be talking about internet connectivities and look at some common methods of internet connection. See you there. Bye bye.